Hello, Pittsburgh. Hope you're having a great day. My name is Ayo Owodunni. Really excited to be able to share this with you. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be a part of the conference as initially discussed and advertised, but I wanted to ensure, and the team as well, a big shout out to Dwayne and the rest of the team, wanted to ensure that you got this information because I strongly feel, and the team feels, that this information that I'm sharing with you, and I'm going to share with you over the next few minutes, is going to be transformative. Is going to really be able to get you thinking differently, get you really aligned with your diverse team members as well. So I'm really excited to talk about this. Let's dive deep into the conversation. My name, once again, is Ayo Owodunni. It's a great pleasure being here with you. Let's get going. I want to talk to you about the 6 keys to inclusive leadership, how to get your diverse team to row in the same direction. Now, as I'm recording this, I also want to share with you that I am this close to sneezing, and it's been there for the past 5 minutes. So if I sneeze somewhere, I apologize, but it keeps coming and going, and I couldn't wait anymore. I just needed to hit the record button. So apologies if I need to sneeze sometimes. It's just right there. It's just not coming out. Who am I? I'm a city councilor in the city of Kitchener. I moved to Canada 7 years ago from Nigeria. I'm the VP of Inclusive Leadership as well for Eagles Flight. Eagles Flights is an experiential training company. We work with 50% of Fortune 500 companies across the United States and Canada. I've been fired twice in the past 7 years in Canada, and I'll be speaking briefly about that as well. And I'm also the author of this book, Inclusive Leadership, The Immigrant View. Hey, by the way, just a shameless plug. I'm looking to hit the Amazon best-selling list. I need to hit 3,000 sales to be able to do that. And I need your help. If you can help order the book, it would be amazing. I'm only giving you a 30-minute snippet here, but the book, it goes into deeper detail of some of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you in my presentation. I'm going to be starting out with this number, 34% waste. Okay, hundreds of executives were interviewed, and in the interview, after the interview, rather, researchers discovered that managers and leaders in organizations were only utilizing 66% of the people's capability. In other words, we were wasting, or we're not really tapping into 34% of that extra potential that individuals can bring to the workplace, to your departments, to your organization, to your startup, to your company at the end of the day. So we're losing out on so much. Next number I want to share with you is 50%. This research was done by Liz Wiseman. They asked individuals to think about those bad leaders that they've worked with. You know what she calls the diminishers. And I'm sure as I share that, some of you are already thinking about those bad managers. You know, those ones that you're walking down the street, you see them, and then you cross to the other side of the street, or you walk into the coffee table or to grab some water or coffee, and you see them walking in the room, and you walk out the room and you're like, coffee can wait a few more minutes till they leave the room. And they ask those individuals in terms of productivity, 0 to 100, 100% meaning you're hitting everything, you're doing all the right things, you're hitting all your targets, KPIs, you're coming with all the energy and all your potential. People shared between 0 to 100% that they were going between 20 to 50%. And then they ask the same set of individuals the same question. Think about leaders that inspire you, that pull so much out of you, that make you go above and beyond. And then they ask them in terms of 0 to 100%, 100 once again being you're hitting all your KPIs, you're doing all the right things, you're very productive, you're bringing your all in. 0 means you're barely doing anything, your outputs is very low and minimal. And they asked them, in terms of productivity, what would that look like? An individual said between 70 to 100%. What was the difference between people giving 20 and 50% of their potential and of their productivity and those individuals that give 70 to 100%? It's very clear. It's leadership. In other words, the difference between people that are doing very well and giving their all and those that are not, one of the key influencing factors is leadership. So what can we learn from this? Let me share a few things with you. The first thing that we can learn from this, we are not fully maximize the potential of people that are working in our organizations, including our diverse colleagues. And then number two, we can fully maximize potential simply by changing how we lead. Really, really powerful things shared here. I want to quickly talk about the North Star. McKinsey did a study, and I'm sure many of you know these numbers. McKinsey did a study back in 2020, and they do this study every year. And they were looking at what is the benefit of having diversity, equity, inclusion, excuse me, within the organization. What are some of the benefits around some of these things? What happens if we just go beyond talking about it and actually doing some of these things? Here's what they discovered. They did a study of over 1,000 companies in a dozen different countries, and they discovered companies in the top quartile that had more ethnic and cultural diversity outperformed those in the fourth quartile by 36% in profitability. Think about that competitive edge that this could give your organization. Boston Consulting Group did their study in 2018, and they discovered that companies with more diverse management teams have 19% higher revenues due to innovation. Why am I sharing these two numbers with you? I want to remind you of the business case. Okay, diversity is not just about doing a good thing. It's not just some fickle thing. We're talking about a business edge, a competitive edge that could separate you from the crowd. Why? Because you're bringing people with diverse perspectives, ideas. You're talking about advertising, people that can bring things from their backgrounds, that can cater to a particular audience that you're seeking to reach out to, that could expand your market share at the end of the day. But it is important that you just don't bring diverse people together and expect poof for things to happen. No. You need inclusive leaders that can get your diverse team to row in the same direction. So today, I want to start with the individuals. I want to start with you being a leader in your organization. How can you create an inclusive community and a culture where everyone feels like they belong? And I want to share 6 different things with you that we can do as leaders. And for each one of these, I want to challenge you to write them down, to think about it, and to start practicing them. Each behavior is really critical and is really essential that you try out. What are those 6 key qualities? They're right here: willing to connect, willing to coach, willing to be courageous, willing to be humble and vulnerable, willing to hold important conversations, willing to build safety. Let's go through each one of them, starting out with the first one, willing to be courageous. This quote is really powerful from HBR.com. Leaders are so terrified about messing up and saying the wrong thing to all their stakeholders, employees, board members, funders, clients, customers, or the wider world via social media that they are paralyzed into inaction. What courageous action do you need to take that you're not taking? I want to challenge you. We need to have courage to have the tough conversations, to bring this up in the workplace. Sometimes we're so concerned about saying the wrong thing that we don't say anything at all. I remember somebody asking me a question, looking around the room, a CEO of an organization saying, Ayo, do I refer to you as Black, Afro-American, African-American? Like, what am I supposed to say? And my response is, well, I'm actually Nigerian. So let me just further confuse you, because I don't know what category you want to put me in. But going beyond that, how do we ensure that we can hit the right marks? We need the courage to ask the questions and have those conversations with one another. Let's stop being nervous and scared, and let's push beyond that. Let's break boundaries. I need you to have the courage to initiate connections, courage to get to know people on your team, courage to make the dumb comments, to apologize and move on, courage to be yourself and allow others to be themselves, courage to allow others to shine, courage to apologize when we've messed up. When ego is in the way, those things cannot happen. But when there's willingness and we take action and we remove ego, we can be inclusive in our thinking. So here's my question for you. 2 actions can you take today to be more courageous at the workplace? What 2 actions can you start taking this week to be more courageous? Let's move to number 2, willing to connect. We must learn to connect with our team members. As you connect with them, walls go down, trust is built. People share thoughts and ideas with us. People are willing to bring their all in, and we're able to take away that 34% waste and tap into potential. I love this story about Sid Marshall from NBA's Dallas Mavericks. It says she made a commitment to meet every member of the organization in the first 90 days. And the first question she asked, tell me your life story. Well, some of you are saying, Ayo, I have a large organization. Can't do this. That's just too crazy. I know a CEO of a bank of over 1,000 employees who made a commitment once a week to meet one new person in the organization and grab virtual coffee with them. He knew there were 30 different branches across the province or across the states, as you would call it. But he made a commitment to meet one new person. And his goal was to get to know them, to hear their life story, and then also ask, what is it in our organization that is crazy, that is holding you back? What can we do better? What do we do differently? Those types of questions really help. But guess what? You cannot ask those questions until you learn about the person, until you get to know the other person. See, as you start to do those types of things, that's when you're able to learn more and tap into the knowledge that people have that could add value to your organization. I don't know what questions to ask, Ayo. We created something called the Curiosity Map. If you buy the book for each of these areas, there are at least 4 or 5 questions that you could ask and you could dive into it. If you're interested, send Dwayne an email, send the team an email, and I can get across to you 30 different questions that you can ask, that you can get to use to know people in your departments. So here's my question for connecting, because it's really crucial. 2 actions can you take today to build better connections at the office? Who can you grab coffee with? Who can you have a water cooler conversation with? Who could you invite out to the game? Who could you spend some time getting to know this week or next week? It's really crucial that you do those things because the benefits outweigh the risk. Let's move to number 3, willing to coach. Diverse team members also need great coaching from you so that they can keep growing, so that they can reach their potential. What exactly is coaching? Coaching is unlocking a person's potential to maximize their own performance so that at the end of the day, your organization can benefit from it. I am a beneficiary of great coaching. My boss, sat in my webinars and listened to this presentation that I've done over and over again to provide feedback and provide some coaching so that I can grow. He doesn't look like me. He doesn't sound like me. We don't have the same background. We don't talk alike at all. However, this individual has been able to step in and help support, and my presentation skills has grown because of his willingness to step in. And guess what? At the end of the day, more money has been able to come into the organization, not just because of my 66% potential, but coaching has been able to come in and has been able to expand that potential and go beyond the 66 and start tapping into that 34%. So your coaching is really, really needed. But coaching cannot happen without courageous conversations. Coaching cannot happen without you connecting with that individual as well. There are great books and resources on coaching. We don't have time to dive into it. But here's a question for you. Who could benefit tremendously from your mentorship and your coaching in your organization? They're there. You just need to tap into it. You just need to be able to step up and say, I want to support this individual. I want to see this individual succeed. Let's move to the next one. Willing to build safety, psychological safety. What is psychological safety? The belief that you can speak up, take risks, and put forward ideas, questions, or challenges without facing ridicule or retaliation. It's a shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk taking. Here's something that I've noticed. I've done several DEI audits for many organizations. I've come in to do listening sessions, focus group conversations, the whole enchilada, the whole spectrum. And guess what? Most times, a large majority of the organization, especially our Caucasian colleagues, a large majority of them are happy working in the organization. They don't have any issues whatsoever. They love it. But then there's a small percentage of people, it's always very small, that are not happy, that feel like they're not being listened to, they're being ignored, they're afraid of losing their jobs, they can't take the risk. And when we think of all those numbers that Boston Consulting Group, that McKinsey has shared earlier on, we cannot tap into our cultural and ethnic diversity if they don't feel safe. We cannot tap into those ideas and resources if they don't feel like taking the risk. And they cannot take those risks until you are willing to be able to help them build psychological safety. What can you do to be able to help them build psychological safety? First, you have to hear from them. First, you have to have a conversation with them. First, you have to be able to tap into the conversation. You're able to speak to them during your one-on-ones. You do audits on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. HR does a massive audit, perhaps once a year or once a quarter. You can do one once a month within your departments by just sharing 5 to 10 questions. Are you looking for questions to ask? No worries. We can send some to you. Okay. We have questions that you can ask, that you can tap into, that you could use to support your team members. But you must build psychological safety. They must be free. They must feel they're open to be able to share their ideas and thoughts without facing ridicule before they can share those things with you. So psychological safety is important, and it starts with you, the leader. Let's move to the next one. Willing to hold important conversations. Very interested. I've been doing a lot of trainings, and when people feel safe, especially leaders, they start to share some interesting questions with me. Here are some questions that I've heard. A leader once said, are we saying we should lower our standards to accommodate immigrants? Are we saying we have to fire staff members so that more diverse people can move up to leadership positions? People want to ask these questions, but if they don't ask, they can't move beyond it in their minds. So I need to also ask you for grace for them to ask their questions, and then patience on your end while you're answering some of their questions. You're able to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You're able to be wise in how you approach the conversation with them. Here's some other important conversations that need to happen. Some data shares a poll revealed that 80% of workers are running in fear of at least one critical conversation at work. What microaggressive comments are happening in your workplace that need to be challenged? Who is making those making those comments? How many legacy workers, legacy meaning they've worked in your organization for so long, they're very influential. How many of them are making comments that are ridiculing other people, that are saying things about diverse employees or different types of employees that are not being challenged because of all the wealth that they bring to the table? If we don't challenge it, it's going to keep happening. Here's something we should all remember. Whatever behavior is tolerated determines the culture in the organization. Where do you draw the line in the sand? I just said the sand in the line. Where do you draw the line in the sand in the organization or in your departments when it comes to some of these things that are taking place and behaviors that are being tolerated? We must say enough is enough at different places and be able to challenge some of those crucial things. 72% of employees feel that their performance will improve if managers were to provide correction and hold critical conversations with them. Who do you need to engage in an important conversation? Lastly, willing to be humble and vulnerable. I love this picture. I love Dr. Evil's quote here. You ain't all that and a bag of potato chips. We need to be humble in our thinking, in our approach. You don't have all the answers, but you can bring diverse perspectives in to give you those answers. What's the mindset of a humble leader? Number one, I don't have all the answers. Number two, I can learn from others. Number three, education is a combination of knowledge, skill, exposure, experience. Don't just look for people that have the masters or that have the PhD or that have, quote unquote, that educational qualification. You want people to have the knowledge. You want people to have the experience, the lived experience, the life experience, the exposure, the skill sets. I recognize others for their efforts. I do not boast as a leader. I do not boast about my credentials, quote unquote. I want to learn from others. And like Simon Sinek always says, speaking last. What team members can I approach to learn from their perspective and from their experience? That is really, really crucial. Now, I want to quickly show you what next. This is, as I mentioned, I'm a VP of Inclusive Leadership for an organization called Eagles Flight. This is a training that we run for organizations. We start with personal behaviors because we think it's really important. For you to get your diverse team to row in the same direction, it starts with the personal behaviors. And then you move on to leadership behaviors. For you to build a culture where everyone feels like they belong, there are key behaviors that leaders need to be able to share and need to be able to create that will create a ripple effect within the organization that determines the norms and the patterns of the organization. And then moving forward, the entire organization must be able to develop certain behaviors as well, where they own DEI, where DEI is integrated into the organization, when we go about just talking about it and operationalizing it, and then using coaching as a key tool to be able to get each individual to be able to grow, to create that culture where everyone feels like they belong. I've thrown so much at you in a few minutes, but I want you to think about some of the things that have been shared today. Our goal is to move beyond compliance-driven DEI and move towards a culture of DEI. If you want a culture where everyone feels like they belong, we must, I repeat, we must ensure that we build leaders that are willing to be courageous, that are willing to connect with people, that are going out of their way to connect with their people, that are willing to coach, are willing to have crucial, important conversations, challenge people where they need to be challenged, that are willing to do a lot of these things with one another, with others in the workplace. And as we do these things, you will start to notice that these behaviors are seen by others, are implemented by others. And over time, you will start to notice that your diverse team will start to see the benefits of working with one another. Trust is built. All those benefits are seen. They start rowing in the same direction. And those numbers we talked about from Boston Consulting Group, those numbers we talked about from McKinsey, will start to happen. It's been a great pleasure being here with you. I hope you've taken some of these challenges that I shared with you today. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. Once again, thank you for giving me an opportunity to be able to present to each and every one of you. Have a lovely, fantastic day.